Hello, New Hampshire. I'm Rick Santorum. I served 12 years representing Pennsylvania in the United States Senate, but I also have substantial executive experience making the tough decisions of balancing budget and cutting spending. Karen and I are the parents of 7 children.
Congresswoman? Down to this then, Senator Santorum, you said you have executive experience as well as your Senate experience. Governor Pawlenty laid out an economic plan, a lot of tax cuts in that plan. Some economists said he had some unrealistic expectations, that he said you could grow the economy 5% a year, then 5% a year, then 5% a year. Do you believe that is possible, or is that too optimistic to be to the American people who want help but don't want to be misled?
Yeah, I think we need a president who's optimistic, who has a pro-growth agenda. I'm not going to comment on 5% or 4%. What we need is an economy that's unshackled. And what's happened in this administration is that they have passed oppressive policy and oppressive regulation after Obamacare being first and foremost. The oppressiveness of that bill on businesses, anybody that wants to invest to get any kind of return, when you see the regulations that are going to be put on business, when you see the taxation, throw on top of that what this president has done on energy. The reason we're seeing this second dip is because of energy prices, and this president has put a stop sign against oil drilling, against any kind of exploration offshore or in Alaska, and that is depressing. We need to drill, we need to create energy jobs, just like we're doing, by the way, in Pennsylvania, where we're drilling 3,000 wells this year for gas, and gas prices are down, natural gas prices are down as a result.
I'll try to ask all of you to keep the follow-ups to 30 seconds as we can so we can get more in.
My question is that I am a New Hampshire native, and I've been an active Republican for years, from a town committee chairman, Republican chairman, Merrimack County, vice chairman, all the way up to a 2004 delegate for President Bush. My question is, how will you convince myself? I'm not a libertarian Republican, I'm not a Tea Party Republican, I'm just a mainstream Republican, and we need both the independents and mainstream Republicans to win in November. How can you convince me and assure me that you'll bring a balance and you won't be torn to one side or the other from any faction and within the party? You have to have a balanced approach to governing to solve our serious problems.
Senator Santorum, let me let you go first on that one.
Well, if you look at my record, I'm someone who's actually accomplished a lot on big issues. Take, for example, welfare reform. I was in the United States Senate, and actually at the direction of Newt Gingrich, I was on the Ways and Means Committee, and I drafted the Contract with America welfare reform bill. It was considered this extreme measure. Well, that extreme measure, we ended up winning an election and getting those seats, and that was now the starting point. And I managed that bill in the United States Senate because I cared about the dignity of every person. I didn't believe that poverty was the ultimate disability. I believed that people could work and they could succeed. And we brought people together. I got 70 votes to end a federal entitlement. To end a federal entitlement, which was what Paul Ryan's proposed for Medicaid. He's proposed for food stamps. He's proposed for other welfare programs. We did it. We set the template, and I led and got bipartisan support to do it.
Can I ask you quickly, that wasn't addressed part of the question, but are you concerned at all about the influence of the Tea Party?
Not at all. I think the Tea Party is a great, great backstop for America. I love it when people hold up this Constitution and say we have to live by what our founders laid out for this country. It is absolutely essential that we have that backbone to the Republican Party going into this election.
I know you agree, Congresswoman. Show people. We're asking people who are watching at home also to tell us on Facebook and Twitter what concerns them. If you watch up here and take a look, just look what's happened. 3 most important issues this election season, regardless of party: jobs, the jobless, and whether you want a job. Senator Santorum, your state, Pennsylvania, a big industrial state that has struggled in recent years.
I always have. From Pennsylvania, we still make things there, and I represented the Steel Valley of Pittsburgh when I was in the Congress. And what I learned from growing up in Butler, Pennsylvania, Seal Town, is that the broad middle of America was a broad middle of America when we had lots of manufacturing here. Because that's how the wealth from those who create the jobs get down, and we've been outsourcing those jobs. So what we need to do is a lot of what was said here. I would add one other thing that I'm specifically proposing. We need to cut the capital gains tax in half, which others proposed, but for manufacturers, we need to give a 5-year window where we cut it to 0. We want to encourage people to set up jobs here in America. Take that R&D credit, make it permanent, take that innovation, and then invest that money here to create that broad middle of America and have that wealth really trickle down.
Let's stay on jobs in the economy. Senator Santorum, I want to start with you.
Thank you.
Of course. Leno or Conan?
I'm neither, probably Leno, but I don't watch either. Sorry.
All right, excellent. That's all right. That's the answer. The answer is the answer. Who would have stepped in and said, I don't want to do this, but this is the backbone of American manufacturing. I'll do something.
No, absolutely not. We should not have had TARP. We should not have had the auto bailout. Governor Romney's right. They could have gone through a structured bankruptcy without the federal government All the federal government did was basically tip to the cronies, tip to the unions, gave the unions the company. If they'd have gone through the orderly bankruptcy process, gone through a structured bankruptcy, they'd have come out in the same place, only we would have kept the integrity of the bankruptcy process without the government putting its fingers into it.
Let's start with the senator first. Should the Republicans slow down?
No, we have a $1.4 trillion deficit, and it isn't getting any better anytime soon. We have to deal with this problem now, and what Paul Ryan has suggested, which I wholeheartedly support, is to use a program that is identical to what seniors already have. It's called Medicare Part D. They have a program right now, which seniors like. It is a program that's called a premium support program. We give seniors, depending on income, a certain amount of money so they can go out and they can purchase health care that they want that helps them. And this is the key, John. We need to include seniors in controlling costs. What President Obama, let me finish, please. What President Obama has done is he put in the Obamacare bill, the Independent Payment Advisory Board. Ladies and gentlemen, seniors, Medicare is going to be cut starting in 2014 by the federal government, and it's going to be rationing of care from the top down. What Paul Ryan and Rick Santorum want to do, which is not radical, which is take a program, Medicare prescription drugs, that is 41% under budget because seniors are involved in controlling costs and apply it all to Medicare. It is the right approach for Medicare.
The Speaker's point, Senator, let me start with you. Just what role does faith play in your political life? Are there decisions, certain issues where some of you might just, let's meet with my advisors, what does my gut say, and others where you might retreat, have a moment of private prayer?
I'm someone who believes that you approach issues using faith and reason. And if your faith is pure and your reason is right, they'll end up in the same place. I think the key to the success of this country, how we all live together, because we are a very diverse country. Madison called it the perfect remedy, which was to allow everybody, people of faith and no faith, to come in and make their claims in the public square, to be heard, have those arguments, and not to say, because you're a person of faith, you need to stay out. Because you have strong faith convictions, your opinion is invalid. Just the opposite. We get along because we know that all of our ideas are allowed in and are tolerated. That's what makes America work. Constitutional amendment, look, the constitutional amendment includes the states. 3/4 of the states have to ratify it, so the states will be involved in this process. We should have one law in the country with respect to marriage. There needs to be consistency on something as foundational as what marriage is.
Very quickly, on this issue, Senator.
The job of the United States military is to protect and defend the people of this country. It is not for social experimentation. It should be repealed, and the commanders should have a system of discipline in place, as Ron Paul said, that punishes bad behavior.
Senator Santorum, staying with you for a moment, if I may, you are staunchly pro-life. Governor Romney used to support abortion rights until he changed his position on this a few years ago. This has been thoroughly discussed. But do you believe he genuinely changed his mind, or was that a political calculation? Should this be an issue in this primary campaign?
I think an issue should be, in looking at any candidate, is looking at the authenticity of that candidate and looking at their record over time and what they fought for. And I think that's a factor that should be determined. You can look at my record. Not only have I been consistently pro-life, but I've taken I've not just taken the pledge, I've taken the bullets to go out there and fight for this and lead on those issues. And I think that's a factor that people should consider when you look, well, what is this president going to do when he comes to office? A lot of folks run for president as pro-life, and then that issue gets shoved to the back burner. I will tell you that the issue of pro-life, the sanctity and dignity of every human life, not just at birth, not just in the issue of abortion, but with respect to the entire life, which I mentioned, welfare reform and the dignity of people at the end of life. Those issues will be top priority issues for me to make sure that all life is respected and held with dignity.
As a naturalized American citizen who came here legally, I would like to know how you, as a president, plan to prevent illegal immigrants from using our health care, educational, or welfare systems.
Senator Santorum, why don't you lead off on that one?
Well, I'm the son of a legal immigrant in this country and believe in legal immigration. That is a great wellspring of strength for our country. But we cannot continue to provide, the federal government should not require states to provide government services And I have consistently voted against that and believe that we are, unfortunately, my grandfather came to this country, I announced in Somerset County. He didn't come here because he was guaranteed a government benefit. He came here because he wanted freedom. And I think most people who come to this country, certainly all the people who come here legally, want it because they wanted the opportunities of this country. And that's what we should be offering. We should not be offering to people, particularly those who broke the law to come here or overstayed their visa, we should not be offering government benefits.
Question for Senator Santorum. The Senate tomorrow is going to be voting on possibly abolishing the ethanol tax effective July 1st, which obviously have a major impact on our friends in another early voting state in Iowa. They grow corn. This is a move that would basically remove tax credits worth $6 billion. Question to you is, do you support abolishing?
Yeah, I actually proposed that we can phase out the ethanol subsidy, which is the blender's credit, over a 5-year period of time. I also proposed, as part of helping them in that transition, one other thing, also phase out the tariff on ethanol coming into this country over that 5-year period of time. One of the issues for the ethanol industry is distribution network, so I would take half of that credit every year, 4.5 cents, and use it to help expand distribution for E85 in other areas of the country. And that all would be shut down in 5 years. And I say that because I think the ethanol industry, I voted against ethanol subsidies my entire time in Congress. But I will tell you, the ethanol industry has matured greatly, and I think they are actually capable of surviving and doing quite well going forward under that plan.
Support the U.S. military, but frankly, we are in debt up to our eyeballs. We have nation building going on around the world where the world's police force, World War II is over, the Korean War is over, but we still have military bases all over Europe, all over Asia. We have something like 900 military bases all around the world. And I want to know if there's a candidate on the stage who's willing to shut down the bulk, not the bulk of these bases, but the bases that aren't vital to our national security, and take that money to pay off our national debt.
Senator Santorum, why don't I start with you on that
We've
one?
actually closed down a lot of bases overseas, but look, what we're dealing with is a failure of leadership on this administration's part to actually put together a strategy where we can confront our enemies. And our enemies are asymmetric threats, terrorism. That means that they are not just positioned in the Middle East, but around the world. That means we have to have the ability to be able to confront those threats from around the world, which means we need basing around the world. So, number one, we do need that basing. We do need to be able to be nimble and to be able to attack where we're attacked, because it's not just a threat. We don't need to build bases in Germany for a threat from the Soviet Union. It's a much broader threat, number one. So we have to engage our allies and have our allies know that we have their back. The president has not done that. He has done everything he can, whether it's Israel or Honduras, or whether it's Colombia, or whether it's the Czechs, the Poles. He has turned his back on American allies, and he has embraced our enemies. Our enemies no longer respect us, our friends no longer trust us, and we have a foreign policy that, unfortunately, now we're probably going to need more of a presence because we have created such a vacuum. Thus, all of the contingency operations that you're seeing here as a result of America's fecklessness in dealing with the threats that confront us.
I need to step in on time here with you, Senator Santorum. What have you learned in the last 2 hours?
I think that what Herman said, we got a great field of candidates. I was very impressed by what I heard. I hope everybody else was. These are folks who answered the questions that were asked of them and did it very directly.